I think that this is also the second part of the development is that output-driven work. We have a saying in German, nur wer schreibt, der bleibt. Those who write stay.
I was the first one in Germany, the first generation, which was not forced to join the army anymore, while my dad was serving at the Iron Curtain, forced to be shooting on people crossing the border.
Do you think can NATO member states or India do better to sort of involve young people, much like the audience of this conference as well, to really involve them into the policy making, or let's just say the policy space, rather than just talking about things that we think matter to us?
Picking up earlier, it was mentioned that we are the median age currently is 29. By the time we reach 2047, we are going to be similar as what Europe is currently, as the median age is going to be around 50.
I was also, like Kevin, the first generation who had not gone to the military in Germany, and I spent my time then. It was so close in my case that I even got the draft letter, which was then, they took it back.
So it is really important to go against the disinformation. Disinformation, you created a very strong relation between different cultures, different countries, and we can do the same not only inside the European Union, but we can do the same with India.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is an absolute pleasure for us to welcome all of you to what is the first panel discussion of the inaugural NATO-India Youth Conference. And before we go ahead, one of the things that I want to highlight is that the two brilliant keynote addresses that have been given, they've really set the tone for this conference, because we want to discuss our personal stories, but also maintain the theme of the conference, which is to discuss the NATO-India relationships. With that, I take a quick moment to introduce our brilliant speakers. And the theme for this panel discussion is Youth Championing Peace and Security. And I believe that it forms one of the most fundamental pillars for this conference, because what we also want to discuss is that how is youth doing in terms of peace and security, and how can we utilize their untapped potential. To my immediate right is Mr. Kevin Baer. He's head of office to member of the European Parliament and chairman of the Young Union in Brussels. Then we have Mr. Moritz. He's the deputy director and co-founder at the Young Security Conference. Then we have Mr. Michele, co-founder and president at Mondo International. And then we have Mr. Purushendra Singh, associate director, Guts International. I think without much ado, let's start right away. And first of all, before we go ahead to the theme, I'd like to sort of pass on the mic to our speakers and then sort of have the remarks on the theme of the discussion.
Let's see if it works. Okay, perfect. Nice. Thank you so much. It's great to be here. And first of all, I would like to underline how impressed I am about the whole conference, the degree of professional organization, especially the social media game. I think you have more than 100,000 followers, so really impressive with all the graphics and reels, and I'm really impressed what you build up here. Then secondly, I would like to thank you for letting me speak on youth leadership, coming from a country of Germany where the average age is 44, and now speaking here at the country with the average age of 29, which I already passed 2 years ago. So thank you so much for having me. And I wanted to talk or to give some insights differently, but actually the Honorable Ambassador with her emotional address really challenged me to give you 3 quick examples what peace, security, and freedom means for me personally. I was born in the eastern part of Germany after the fall of the Iron Curtain. And when it comes to, for example, education, I was the first one in my family which was allowed to study in a university. So my parents were both not allowed due to ideological reasons. Secondly, language. I'm allowed to learn whatever language I want and use it for my professional career. Both my parents were forced to learn Russian, which doesn't help them now at all when we are on holidays. We like to go to Western countries, but and India. Thirdly is about the compulsory military service. I was the first one in Germany, the first generation, which was not forced to join the army anymore, while my dad was serving at the Iron Curtain, forced to be shooting on people crossing the border. So talking today about peace, security, and freedom really means a lot to me, and I'm looking forward to this discussion.
Well, thank you very much also from my side to be here today. Thanks for the Geostrata team, thanks to the Netherlands for hosting us, thanks to NATO for making this happen. Since we are in the game of sharing personal stories, my first time in India was about 13 years ago, and this ties a little bit in both what the ambassador said and what Kevin just now mentioned, because I was also, like Kevin, the first generation who had not to go to the military in Germany, and I spent my time then. It was so close in my case that I even got the draft letter, which was then, they took it back, and all of a sudden I was like, well, I have time, and I used the time to go to India. And this was the reason why I traveled this country for 6 months intensely, and now this is a big coming back here for me these last 2 days, because I haven't been to Delhi in all these years. A lot has changed. I saw small changes yesterday already a little bit. And I think it's a truism if we say, India is waking up, or the giant now. It has been a giant 15 years ago, or like an elephant probably. But what I really do like to mention here is how I am pleased to see that civil society and organizations like Geostrata are also part of this new waking up. It's state-of-the-art content that you are producing. It is really professional, and to see that this has been independently being set up out of a university, out of young people is really interesting. My last point maybe is also referring to what we just heard from you, from NATO, is that youth engagement, is aiming at the future, is aiming at young leaders, that one day will become the future of NATO. But I think it's also for the present right now to inform certain debates. I think youth engagement can bring young ideas to current debates. And why do we need young ideas? I think that young ideas are often more unbiased, more creative, and can really, sometimes enhance certain debates. And this is what we've been trying to do. I'm going to talk about this in a second. But this is what we've been trying to do over the last 5 years. And this is the journey that you are on right now. And I'm happy to be here and contribute.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm Michele Pavan from Mondo Internazionale from Italy. So we collaborate a lot of time, maybe second year, we collaborate together with the Geostrata. We work in the cultural diplomacy sectors about the young generation to understand better the other culture outside Europe and the NATO countries. So we operate for do analysis, report, and many exchange program with the university in collaboration within the university and our think tanks. So thank you for inviting me in this panel and to discuss about the relation in peace and security in this particular moment of the life. We was born 7 years ago. I worked before for crisis prevention in Middle East and Africa. And this is the reason that we start to discuss and to found Mondo Internazionale to discuss about cultural diplomacy and change. Because it's really important, in our opinion, to discuss, to prevent the crisis and to rebuild a new society, and security society and peace after the war or the after conflicts in many regions of the world. So we started to operate in Africa, and we set up the new headquarters in Ivory Coast to have a good relation between Africa and Italy, in particular with support for Piano Mattei, but of course with the other reason to discuss about that. We are present in 21 countries in the world, in Asia, in South America, in Africa, in Europe as well, and the United States, of course. But the good point is to start to discuss about cultural diplomacy and how we can work together with the other generation. Because we have one problem. One of the other problem in this moment is the disinformation and misinformation. So when you understand better, you know the culture, the history about the other country, you have more possibility to have the project counter disinformation and counter misinformation in many countries. So this is the first topic that we would like to improve to have with the other culture to discuss about that. So we have the moment and time to do together today and the next days and next year. So thank you to invite me. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
So namaste everybody, this is Purushendra Singh and welcome to India, people who are coming for the Rising now or otherwise. Taking on from here, we are looking at Atmanirbhar Bharat. So that is another 20 plus years. By 2047, we want to become a developed country. Picking up earlier, it was mentioned that we are the median age currently is 29. By the time we reach 2047, we are going to be similar as what Europe is currently. That is, the median age is going to be around 50. So at the outset, thank you, Geostrata team. Thank you, this beautiful house, Dutch ambassador, and to you, ma'am. We are sitting at a very fragmented world. I would look out at three perceptions. Firstly, I've already spoken about Atmanirbhar Bharat, how we proceed, and especially youth is going to look at what does it mean to be in a developed India. Secondly is the revival and the coming back of Trump. Now, picking up on the intellectual inquiry that was mentioned, the only thing predictable about Trump is his unpredictability. So, we may see a deal coming between China and US. What happens to India then? What happens to the youth and our intellectual inquiry? So that is second. And thirdly, one of the largest delegation of EU was in India very recently, talking about values and interest and how defense manufacturing is going to ramp up in another 5% of the GDP. So it's a huge opportunity for the youth in India currently for our innovation, for our energy, and for our creativity to think on these lines. That is for my initial remarks. Look forward. Thank you.
All right. I mean, those were really wonderful remarks by speakers. So one of the things before we really go ahead and ask questions to the panel speakers is that if you would have questions for them, which I'm sure after listening to their personal stories, if you have, keep your questions ready. In a short while, I'll come to that. Now, my first question would be to Mr. Kevin. And since we're talking about youth and its role in the world, European Union has been really out there in terms of ensuring that the young people and their voices are involved into policy making, into the European Parliament. What do you think can NATO member states or India do better to sort of involve young people, much like the audience of this conference as well, to really involve them into the policy making, or let's just say the policy space, rather than just talking about things that we think matter to us?
Thank you so much for the question. I think the first dimension we have to look is into connections in our youth organization of the European People's Party, the youth organization called YEP. We introduced a transatlantic youth summit, and people often say, referring to Europe, that we are regulating too much, but actually we are pretty good with institutionalizing. So I'm really glad to hear that you want to have this kind of conference as an annual conference. And what we had great experience with is like back-to-back conferences. So the Transatlantic Youth Summit of YEP, of our youth organization, is happening once in Washington and once in Brussels. So if you're thinking about institutionalizing, it's great to get to know each other and the different continents. So that's the first thing on the connection, institutionalizing. Second thing, go digital. And I mean, I don't have to explain you. I already outlined the state-of-the-art social media communication is doing. But there's a lot which can build around this. Later, we have a podcast session. You also do video casts, a lot of snippets, but it also helps to stay in touch with each other. You see what's going on. You do quizzes. You take on recent topics. So I think that's actually something we can learn from you. And the third point is to secure all this is basically to get budget, to get funding. And there it's important, from my opinion, to involve all the different institutions. So if you're thinking about youth engagement in Europe, you have the Erasmus Plus program, which basically entitles everyone to study for one semester in another European country. Then you're thinking about the institution, the Commission or the European Parliament. you can both do great internships there. But then you're thinking about the political groups. My group, which I'm working for, the EPP group, the biggest and oldest in the European Parliament, is offering internships too, but is also doing annual events, which is called the EPP Youth Week. So we are inviting, or each member is inviting members of their constituency, youngsters, to the parliament. They will have a great time, they will learn a lot, and they will get back with great experience. So that's my advice also to you, or to share some insights, to reach out to as many institutions as possible and step up the funding game.
And those were a lot of insights that perhaps India started to working upon. Now with that, I want to come to Mr. Purushendra, and you talked about a deal, right? A imaginative deal that might be coming up, right? And you talked about defense manufacturing. What I want to sort of ask you is, how is the landscape for young people changing when we look at whatever changes are happening in the world, and how can we be better ready to sort of deal with them?
Firstly, the answer is this conference to start with. This is the first conference that we are doing with India and NATO. So this is one. We are moving to diversifying our partnership. Moving on, Atmanirbhar, there's a scheme such as Atmanirbhar scheme, Atmanirbharta, that is short service commission. So for the youth who do not want to go for long-term commissioning, they can definitely go for short commission. That is one. The second one is territorial army. So that's a territorial armed forces. That is for youth who can go for 2 years of initial training, and that is second. Thirdly, I would say in terms of defense manufacturing, especially India has opened its door post-2020. That is in terms of defense ecosystem manufacturing and likewise. I guess youth can explore further areas, and that has expanded from space to AI to quantum computing to likewise. So I guess broadly these are my suggestions.
All right. Now I want to come to Mr. Moritz, and one of the things that Ms. Barbara highlighted, or she gave us a realistic perspective of young people, right? And Moritz has been working extensively with the Young Security Conference in Europe, in Berlin. And what I want to ask him is if he can share his experience, which involves young people institutionalizing things into the policy making. Moritz, what would you say on that?
Thank you for that question. I think let me start by saying this. There is not a single policy, because the question was very much on how to bring these young voices to certain policies. There's not a single policy that I can think of right now that we've been really shaping or anything. This might be a bummer at first to hear. We've been doing what we've been doing for 5 years at the Young Security Conference, organizing 5 conferences in Germany, bringing young people to these debates. We have also a running stipend program, a scholarship program, where we every year then also, I'll get to that in a second while this plays a big role, while we offer young people the opportunity to go there and actually work on certain topics. We've been having 160 young people over the years. And then we had all these people in the audiences, both physically and digitally. Physically hundreds, digitally maybe thousands. And it's still tough. It's just simply it's a tough game. But I want to highlight 3 things here today, which is development, delivery, and credibility. So these are the 3 things I think. Were the 3 major factors that I want to dive into a little bit more and explain what we learned, at least, over the last years. I think that if it comes to development, the networking training balance plays a big role. What is the goal of your youth engagement initiative? Is it sheer networking, or are you also going into training? What we saw is training plays a huge role. Training also includes really working on certain policies, to create them, to sit down and really concretely think about the things. Otherwise, networking does play a big role and fulfills a very important, is very, very important. But what it doesn't do is, or what it tends to do is that we find ourselves in these echo chambers where we just, talk about it, and then we sit there with a loose coffee, and then nothing ever gets being done. I think that this is also the second part of the development is that output-driven work. We have a saying in German, nur wer schreibt, der bleibt. Those who write stay. So putting pen to paper is really, really crucial. This is a mistake that we did in the past and that I can only encourage every one of you here in the audience to do. Put your thoughts on paper. And then the third point within the development part is the intergenerational aspect of this all. The ambassador mentioned it before. She looks into many faces of many young people, but also people who are also a little bit more senior, who have seen things, who have experience. And that is also very, very crucial in youth engagement to not, let the young people cook, as as young people like to say themselves, but also give them the opportunity to work with those who have made the experiences, to really get this intergenerational component into your work. Don't dismiss old views, don't dismiss maybe some of these people who've been in these organizations for such a long time. Take them on, challenge them personally in these conversations. Second point, real quick, delivery. To whom are you delivering your results? Who are you inviting to your initiatives? I think what's very crucial here, this is what I've been saying for years now, it's the second level that's interesting. Hot take, I don't even want to sit here today with Prime Minister Modi. He has probably also way better things to do. But it's also that it is interesting to get his staffers, his advisors, those people who are in the second row, those you want to be in touch with. Because this is the biggest chance of getting your ideas across. And it's every once in a while, it's a beautiful occasion to have the really high up decision makers next to you for a keynote or even for a personal gathering. But let's just be honest here. They have other things and more important things to do. Talk to the staffers. And by the way, they're sometimes even more powerful because they're the ones who are really like crafting policy. And then the senior decision makers are presented with options. And then they pick out of a certain range of options. And if you've been part of the development of one of these options, it's already a great success. Networking, to get back to networking, because this is part of the delivery part. Look at quality over quantity, real quick. Nurture your networks. Don't go to every coffee date. It's not about the sheer amount of business cards that you collect at many of these conferences. It's really to engage with the people. Choose your fighters and then run with that. Last point, credibility. Really develop subject matter expertise. Also for the Geostrata, it's the same as with us with the Young Security Conference. We have a very broad set of things that we cover in our work. But maybe try to, or that's what we are trying now, or that we want to try now in the future, is to be a more precise on what we really want to tackle. Because then we can build up subject matter expertise, and then it is catering to your credibility. If you really know your stuff, you can develop a lot, and you can know a lot because this is an open source. This is an open source era. Most of the information out there are accessible for you. I've heard once that 75% of the information that, for example, the German intelligence service is working with is OSINT, is open source intelligence. This is, you can get your information, and you can have in a discussion or in a conversation with decision makers, you can have this knowledge to really compete with them. Last point, patience. On my travel throughout India, I saw twice the saying, "Patience is sweet, but its fruits are bitter." Seems to be an old Sanskrit saying. That's very true. There's a 5-year rule. You have to get through these first 5 years, and then more funding will come. Funding is very crucial. We don't have to. We might going to talk about this in a second, but you have to get through these 5 years on your own. This is really raw. But I can only encourage each and every one of you at Geostrata, but everyone else here in the room who thinks about doing something like this one day, yeah, it's patience. Thank you.
I mean, I loved all of the things that you said, and these sort of insights that Moritz just spoke about. I think that can only come from someone who's been really working extensively to sort of champion the cause of youth and like really put them in a serious way. Now, with that, I want to come to Michele, and he's been someone who has worked with the UN, the NATO, and the EU. So, what we want to ask is, based upon the discussion that we've had so far, what's been your experience like working with these institutions, and what sort of things should we keep in mind when we're about to start our own respective journeys, be it interacting with NATO or EU? What would you say on that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that's really complicated to a political reply, but I think that's we have to divide the relation between this organization and during the activities like that in the conference or during the activities in the European Union or United States. So we divide between the operational things and then the institutional affairs. So institutional affairs, the dialogue is very open and to discuss about many topics from open source intelligence to the new technologies, the public diplomacy, cultural diplomacy, and other things. But I think that's we divide with the boots on the ground and to understand what happens on the ground. On the ground, it's completely different, the relation. So in particular for Africa and the Middle East and the other operational affairs, we need to integrate it to understand better this knowledge is inside in the country. So if we want to develop a new approach to stay on the same path during the activities in the world is changing, we need to understand better in the ground and to understand and share the information about the technologies, about the threats, about the new aspect to understand better and to build a new society and continue to build a new society in this country. For example, I think that we have the opportunity to discuss, because I worked before in particularly for counterterrorism activities in Africa. So the counterterrorism you can approach for the new technology, so you can do a conflict, you can reply with the air, and you can continue to the counterterrorism approach like that. In the other way, I feel is short term to operate it like that. So you need to understand the culture inside, on the ground, and to create a long-term approach to stabilize the context with the peace and the cultural approach. Create not only the school or the other education things, but you can exchange the relation between this organization with the young generation and the other things in interdisciplinary, intercultural, and multicultural approach, and the same, of course, in the generational approach, because you need the expert to do it, to understand better the historical approach and to the other things in the past, but you need the new perspective from the new generation to establish this type of things. So I think that we can collect the new approach between the international affairs to the single approach in different countries and different states about the cultural approach.
All right. Now, so far, one of the underlying themes in everyone's remarks has been, and even in the keynote address, was that how do we better understand each other? What sort of things do we do to sort of do that? Now, I want to come again to Mr. Kevin, and your work across the EU relations and the transatlantic security gives you a unique perspective. Now, what we want to ask you is, if we want to further relations between the Indian youth and, let's just say, the youth of the NATO member states, how do we do that? How do we go about that?
Well, now I'm in the uncomfortable situation that Moritz nearly touched all relevant points, but as I figured out earlier, given, for example, the Transatlantic Youth Summit, which is our youth organization, is doing, install these kind of projects. As I mentioned, there are different kind of counterparts. It's NATO-INDIA. NATO is clear, but what is India? Is it the government, the parliament? Are there other stakeholders you can interact with and get funding? Mentioning funding, the importance was already highlighted by Moritz. But I'm also going to talk later in the podcast, I think, about the culture of making mistakes and how important it is to make the experience. So also have the financial stability and ability to taking risks is super important. And of course, it's nice to have a conference, but what is more important is what you're going to talk about. And conferences like this also shape the focus on the topics. So I think everyone which has been through Raisina now better understands the relevance of the Indo-Pacific, and especially for us Europeans, the importance to understand the importance of what capabilities NATO or the US has, and that we need to step up our game. So focusing on topics is super relevant, and I think if you look from the US over Europe to India, it's all about digital, it's all about tech. Everyone's talking about AI. There are different approaches to regulation. Of course, that's the first thing we think in Europe about regulation. Here I have the feeling it's more about the business component. So that would be my advice, to think about the setting up the conference, build the infrastructure, build connections, but the most important thing, find common topics, which is also involving all the different stakeholder groups. And
okay, that was brilliant.
Can I add one point?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So my organization, we work in Africa. We have 3 centers in Africa, one in Geneva, one in Washington, D.C., 6th one in Hanoi, outside India. What we work on is RANC model, RANC, which is research, advocacy, networking, capacity building, that was mentioned earlier. Regarding funding, now it will, I guess, will become even more with Trump coming in, US aid cutting down the funding. We have a real problem at our hands, and we have to see and look out for newer funding opportunities to take it forward. So that is.
All right, as our speakers have highlighted again and again, funding is important.
It's a problem for everything.
With that, we come to taking questions from the audience. If you would have questions, you can please raise up your hands, and we can pass on the mic to you, and then we can go ahead. All right.
Sorry, this is, it feels really strange to be in the first row asking questions. So actually, I would like to, and congratulations to all of you for all the work you are doing. It's pretty amazing. And happy to exchange cards with you. I think I have spoken at your conference in Munich, I think about 2 years ago. So I can say it's a really great event. But actually, I wanted to pick up on your point about the echo chambers and what are your thoughts, but also of the other panelists, like how to get out of these echo chambers, because we find the same in our communication as NATO, not just with youth, but overall, right? You mentioned disinformation, some of you. I mean, it's a big, big issue. Can imagine NATO being hit with disinformation literally on a daily basis. So what did you learn, or if there's anything you can share how to get out of these echo chambers would be really interesting also for us, quite honestly. Thank you.
I'm going to start real quick, but then also hand over to my colleagues here on stage. I think that one thing with the echo chambers is that what are the profiles of people that you are engaging with? So what we see a lot, I'm not going to mention names here, by major organizations out there with their youth programs, is that the people are always the same. They went to the same schools, they went to the same universities, also everything is very elite. And then they meet again. Oh, you also studied at LSE. Oh, you also studied at Cambridge. Also, at Sciences Po. There is a reason for that. The reason for that is that these schools really pick talent, and these people are talented. Don't get me wrong. But every once in a while to give chances to people who come from state universities, who come from, not from the absolute top tier schools, but from other schools, other backgrounds, still have good grades, but come from other backgrounds. That's number one. Number two is, and this is very easy also, if you talk about, we had this last year, if you talk about the Western Balkans, have a person from the Western Balkans on the panel. That already changes a little bit the entire dynamic. But this happens a lot in, I must say, in Western countries. It happens a lot in Germany, I must say. We debate about topics that, where not the people in question are not on stage. And then we all meet each other at this event, and then at the other event I see these people again, and then this is where the echo chambers kind of are being, where they start to appear. And then last thing would be maybe, for each and every one to challenge to consume diverse media, I guess, read other news outlets, read other articles. But yeah, I'd like to give over to you, maybe.
No, I agree with you. And just to add one information, because I signed the Erasmus program that you mentioned before. It's like a very great program to do 6 months to study in the other academy, the other university outside your country, and to understand the other culture outside Europe, from Italy to the Northern Europe on the other side. But there is a problem. After these 6 months, when you come back and you started to do a work and to do some job in Italy, for example, you forget the other relation with the other part of the European Union, for example. So you have to set up a new foundation, organization, or the other approach to discuss about your sectors, and you continue to discuss with the other culture outside your country. This is like a cultural diplomacy, but it's not to talk about peace or security or the other things like that, but you can do something like, for example, for health, for transportation, infrastructure. So the other sectors is not mentioned in particular in peace and security, and you continue this cultural approach exchange. So it is really important to go against the disinformation and misinformation, and you create a very strong relation between different cultures and different perspectives. And we can do the same, not only inside the European Union, but we can do the same with India, with the other countries outside Europe, and to discuss and to continue this relation against disinformation and to build the real stronger relation between different cultures. So I think it's really important to continue this work in this way.
If I may jump in really quickly, the basic question is about outreach, and from my experience in the European Parliament is if there are new members elected to the Parliament and they want to get some kind of publicity or have a really unique topic, the first thing is to change the narrative. So talking about security policy, isn't it also about talking about freedom? Maybe some people think they are not security experts, but everyone has a personal relationship to these topics. But the more important thing is how to broaden the aura, and that's about involving really popular people, sportsperson, stars. And the most successful hearings we had in the European Parliament were with Formula 1 driver Nico Rosberg. A new Greek MEP invited the huge basketball star of their team. Then when I'm coming back, there is an event with the French football player Matuidi. So simply get people interested in and then start talking about the topic. If you already have a highly defined topical debate in the invitation, nobody will show up, and you will debate with the same people again. Yeah. And maybe we can collect 3 questions or something, then everyone has the chance to ask questions. No. Then we can make most of the time.
All right, we'll collect 2 questions from the audience. With what Mr. Kevin said, he talked about the role of celebrities and football players. Perhaps in the next conference, maybe we get Virat Kohli or Shah Rukh Khan, but then we'll see that next year.
Cricket players.
I guess they are cricket players, huh?
Yes. One of them is an actor, one of them is a cricket player, and one of them is one of India's biggest movie stars.
Right, gentlemen, good morning. My name is Samvat. I'm a second year at Jindal Global University. I mostly look at matters of national security, naval deterrence, that side of the house. So, firstly, thank you so much for being so candid in your enumerations to us. We're not used to this much level of honesty and grandeur in an event of this sort. My question revolves around, because this is a youth panel, at the end of the day, the conversations about youth in Europe are very different to how they might happen this side of the Suez. For the problem of youth in India, at some point there's just too many of us. So from a 19-year-old's perspective, even if I want to get that amount of credibility, if I want to get that access to those third row staffers of these people as well, what qualities do you people who are a bit higher up on that rung of the ladder, what qualities would you look for? Or what sort of backgrounds, experiences would you look for someone my age cohort, which just makes it a little more accessible and feasible for me to get those slots? Thank you so much.
All right, I think all of you can answer that question, whatever you want to add, and then we'll be concluding the panel.
Conviction, discipline, and hard work, I guess, the three.
I think that's really, really difficult to reply to you. But I think that's when you start to do something. I think that's many young generation, many young people have different qualities about that. So I think there is no specific qualities to see. But I think that's you have an idea about something, you continue to propose, to discuss about that, and you continue to present something. I think that's this way. It's not right or wrong. I think that you can present your idea and to discuss with the other, and you keep in mind that your idea is not wrong. Maybe it's only your idea, but you have to discuss with the other, present to the other, and listen the other opinion to integrate your idea. So I think it's the only that I get.
I'm going to spice things up a little bit and disagree with my colleague to the very right. I think hard work is sometimes a little bit overrated. Work smarter, not harder. So don't go into this work 7 days a week. I mean, I think that I've heard, at least, this is my personal experience, that this also has been going on in India a lot, amongst young people. This absolutely driven, no break, just be better than the others, and so on, just going on tirelessly. Authenticity, develop a sense of humor, just be yourself, and then what Michele just said, pick your fight, patience, and then stay true to your thing, your topic, and then just try your best.
I always have the pleasure to speak after Moritz, after he concluded everything. Let me give you some insights in politics in Europe, or especially in Brussels. It's a lot about having one-on-one connections. So as soon as you message, if you're able to message someone on WhatsApp, it's much easier than the email got lost in the inbox. Having this one-on-one connections, don't get me wrong, I don't want to talk about nepotism or something. If you have family members or whatever there. It's about taking the shots when you have the possibility. So whenever you meet someone, reach out to them, make them, like Moritz said, appear really authentic, give them some sense of inspiration, of vision, and I'm pretty sure they will get back to you. Most of our interns from our office simply approached our boss at an event, and he said, "Yeah, sure, I will give you the opportunity," and then we have to schedule them in a really tight schedule because he cannot say no, So that's my advice: build one-on-one connections and also build a network. Like Moritz said. You can work as hard as you want, but you are only one person working hard. If you have a big network which is passing information to you, you simply need to facilitate, and you are working for 10 people, which will make you outstanding.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a panel 1, and as our panel member said, let the youth go. Thank you so much, everyone.